Well, I was talking with a man not long ago who learned during the course of our conversation that I was a Quaker pastor. And he brightened up and he said, I used to be a pastor. Oh, I said, that's interesting. How long did you serve as a pastor? And he said, well, it was a long time ago, and I only lasted 3 months. And I knew there had to be a good story there. I just knew it. How do you only last 3 months? It turns out he forgot Mother's Day. He said, after thinking about it for a moment, he said, actually, I think they would have forgiven that. But the next week, I preached on women and the church and quoted from Genesis about men ruling over women. And I mentioned 1 Corinthians about women being silent in church. And that turned out to be my last Sunday. And I didn't know this man well. I had just met him, so I didn't feel free to call him a bird brain. But I thought it. I said, do you still believe those things? And he said no, that he had gotten married. And his wife had straightened him out. And I said, good for her. Good for her. So happy Mother's Day, women. And greetings from a church that doesn't believe you should be ruled by anyone but yourself. And if you want to speak, feel free. If you're not a mother, we still celebrate you. Today, we honor all those women who create, nurture, and love. Some women give birth to children. Some women give birth to ideas. Some women give birth to transformative social movements. We honor you and applaud the many and various ways you have nurtured life. We begin with an apology. Religion, perhaps more than any other institution, has conspired to keep women down. The American suffragist Elizabeth Cady Stanton once said, the Bible and the church have been the greatest stumbling blocks in the way of women's emancipation. We can talk until we are blue in the face how the church reveres women, how the church elevates women, but when Christianity's largest denomination still does not permit women to serve as priests, when a religious majority in the Supreme Court conspires to deny women their medical and reproductive freedom, when 28,000 Southern Baptist churches do not permit women to lead, when 17 million Mormons worldwide will not permit women to serve in the priesthood, the church's words of reverence for women ring hollow. We've been talking about what it means to be spiritual, contrasting religion and spirituality. I want to continue our exploration by observing that religions, not all religions, but certainly a plurality of them in history, have endeavored to keep women down and women powerless, and have done so by claiming that the subjugation of women is God's will. Now we contrast this with spirituality, which I think at its heart has the purpose always to connect and value and affirm. I believe true spirituality believes women were not intended to be managed, but emancipated. Spirituality speaks not of conquest and control, but of connection and liberation. When our Christian ancestors encountered strong and independent women. They called them witches and put them to death. A warning to women everywhere to know their place and stay there. Philip Smith, writing in the academic journal Historical Social Research, estimated that from 1400 to 1700 AD, up to 1 million women in Europe and America were accused of witchcraft. 1 million women, and half of them were put to death. The hidden history of the abuse of women. They did this with the full approval of the church. And then we became civilized. So rather than killing powerful and free-thinking women, we forbid them from owning property, made them stay with abusive husbands, denied them a voice in political matters, and still forbid them from terminating an unwanted or dangerous pregnancy. This is personal for me. I had an aunt who died from a dangerous pregnancy because she was not able to get the abortion her doctor said she needed to save her life. When we peer behind this grim curtain, we see the hand of oppressive religion pulling the strings. When women expressed great spiritual truths, they were corralled, told what they could and could not say, what they could and could not feel, what they could and couldn't do. But spirituality never corrals. It never controls. It seeks only to enlighten and illuminate and liberate. Though I am not a woman, when I hear a woman say, I am spiritual but not religious, I am hearing a woman realize that she has been ill-served and abused by religion, though has not lost her passion for truth, meaning, and beauty. I hear her say that though religion has tried to silence her, she will nevertheless persist. For too many years, our image of the perfect woman was related to her willingness and ability to serve men. She was not valued for her intelligence, for her insight, for her creativity, for her strength, but valued only for her compliance and submission. Wives, obey your husbands, religion told her. Cover your head, keep silent, bear children, don't argue, know your place. But know this, compliance and submission are the dreaded enemies of true spirituality. Compliance and submission are the dreaded enemies of true spirituality, which serves always to emancipate and empower, especially those who've been held down and held back. Since it is Mother's Day, I think naturally of my own mother and her life. My mother had within her body 78 organs, of which the womb was only one. When that was removed, her value was in no way diminished. I remember my mother telling me of the day in 1963 she told religion to stop concerning itself with her womb. She had had 5 children in 6 years, and one Sunday morning sat through a homily given by a priest telling her birth control was a sin. Afterwards, my mother, who had never had a fear of anyone wearing any kind of uniform, went up to him and asked him, "Are you going to help me raise all the children you want me to have?" And he drew up and said, "That is not my business." And she said, "Exactly, exactly." And that is the day my mother went on birth control. I loved my mother. Loved my mother. There isn't a day that passes that I don't think of her, that I don't miss her, that I don't cherish her memory. I am grateful she gave me life, but I am even more grateful for her strength, her intelligence, and her refusal to be reduced to a womb. In the last days of her life, my mother was not a religious woman. She was, however, deeply, deeply spiritual and walked freely and joyfully among the fragrant and gorgeous mysteries of life. May you and I do the same. So there was a woman who used to pastor this meeting. Her name was Eliza Armstrong Cox. And she began what is now a global organization, United Society of Friends Women International. If you've heard people stand and make mention of USFW, that's what that is. When I became a pastor and wanted to last more than 3 months, I went to my superintendent, Bob Garris, and said, "Bob, do you have any hints for longevity in ministry?" And he told me this: "Watch and see what USFW is doing and follow them." I'm now in my 39th year of pastoral ministry because I've always remembered that. Here's the thing. Quakers, over the course of our long history, have had, unfortunately, sadly, many splits, always, without exception, begun by men, arguing over arcane scriptures and points of theological difference, every one of them. In all of those splits, USFW has never split, and to this day works together around the world to further the passions of Quakerism, feeding the hungry, clothing the poor, ministering to the brokenhearted. So friends, no matter your gender, be a USFW woman. Hold before yourself their priorities of unity and compassion and wisdom. And if you notice in your life that they are going one direction and you are going another, trust me when I tell you, you are on the wrong path and that you must correct it. So, for the gifts of women today, for their stubborn insistence on remaining united when the rest of us are finding reasons to divide, we are grateful. We are grateful. So, if you are blessed to be standing near a woman today, shake her hand and say thank you. Go in peace, friends.